A new FBI report released just hours ago showing that the South is seeing the highest number of reported human trafficking cases compared to other parts of the country.
These human traffickers are moving these children. Sometimes they don't turn themselves in.
It began with a standard manifest check at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. On the surface, it looked like a routine relocation of unaccompanied minors, but when ICE agents noticed that the signatures on the federal intake forms didn't match the state-issued IDs of the chaperones, the atmosphere shifted from administrative to tactical in seconds. We aren't just talking about a paperwork error. We're talking about the moment the federal government realized that a high-profile nonprofit director had allegedly turned a Texas airport into a personal transit hub for a shadow network. The shock isn't just that it happened, it's that it was happening in broad daylight under the flicker of neon airport terminal lights.
Human trafficking is not just a distant overseas problem. The issue is here. It's in our communities. It's in our small towns. It's in our big cities.
As the FBI moved in to secure the perimeter, 27 individuals were flagged, not as travelers, but as pieces of a puzzle that the DOJ had been trying to solve for 18 months. The director at the center of this? A man who, until yesterday, sat on community advisory boards and lectured on human rights. Now, before we pull back the curtain on the specific transportation logs that were seized during this raid, I have a question for you. Do you want the version of the news that the airport PR teams cleared, or do you want the raw investigative data? If you believe that accountability has no expiration date, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. We are building a community that values deep dive evidence over 3-second sound bites. Join the front line. The panic in the terminal wasn't just among the suspects, it was among the bureaucrats who realized the paper trail was about to become a prison trail.
Now, the FBI says during the last 10 years, more than 10,000 victims of human trafficking were reported to the Bureau.
To understand how this house of cards collapsed, we have to look at the exact moment the director realized his political immunity had just expired. For years, the subject of this investigation operated with a gold-plated shield. In the world of nonprofit management, if you have the right titles and the right community outreach awards, people stop asking for receipts. The power dynamic was heavily skewed in his favor. He was the one who decided which agencies got access to vulnerable populations. He was the one who could make a phone call and have an audit rescheduled. But at DFW, that shield didn't just crack, it vaporized. The flip occurred when the federal lead investigator refused to take a seat in the VIP lounge for a private chat. Instead, they processed the arrest on the cold linoleum of the terminal floor. Why does this matter? Because it signals a fundamental shift in how the DHS is approaching special interest nonprofits. The expectation was that a few well-placed political calls would end the inquiry. The reality was a pair of steel cuffs and a one-way trip to a federal holding cell. The predator had become the evidence. Pattern recognition is the enemy of the corrupt. When you look at the last 3 years of Texas airport logs, this network starts to look less like a charity and more like a logistics company. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. Our research team traced similar administrative anomalies back to 2024 at Houston Hobby and San Antonio International. In each case, the director's organization claimed they were expediting the reunification of families. But when you look at the data, the families they were reuniting often vanished from state records within 48 hours of landing. Notice the strategy. Use the chaos of the border crisis as a smokescreen for high-value human cargo. By the time an auditor noticed a missing child, the director had already moved on to the next grant cycle, successfully framing any investigation as a distraction from the mission. Does it feel like the more expert the title, the less accountability we see? If you're tired of the administrative excuse and want to see more forensic breakdowns like this, hit the like button. Is the fastest way to tell the YouTube algorithm that this story and these 27 individuals cannot be swept under the rug. Let's get this to 10,000 likes for the sake of transparency. The pattern is undeniable. It wasn't a failure of the system, it was an exploitation of the system's most noble intentions. Let's talk about the receipts method. We aren't interested in rumors, we are interested in the unsealed federal affidavits. According to DOJ Document 4-26, the FBI intercepted digital communications where the director discussed overhead costs in relation to the transit of minors. In any other industry, that's called a bill of lading. In this industry, it's a felony. The most devastating contradiction? 2 weeks before his arrest, the director gave a keynote speech on the ethics of sanctuary. In that speech, he stated, and I quote, "Transparency is our greatest weapon against exploitation." Fast forward to the raid, and agents are finding encrypted burner phones hidden in the air vents of his airport office. It's a masterclass in irony. He was using the very vocabulary of human rights to build a fortress for human trafficking. The federal receipts show that over $1.2 million in operational costs were actually funneled into private holding companies that had no employees and no offices. You might be asking, how does a network this large operate at a major U.S. airport without being seen? The answer is the halo effect. When a public figure is associated with doing good, our brains are wired to ignore the red flags. We see the awards, we see the photos with governors and mayors, and we assume the math must be right. The media plays its part too. They love the hero narrative. For 3 years, the press treated this director as a saint, making it socially expensive for any whistleblower to come forward. If you questioned the airport operations, you weren't just asking about logistics, you were attacking a hero. This creates a culture of silence, where the only people who know the truth are the ones too afraid to speak it, until the FBI shows up with a warrant that no PR firm can spin. We are entering the final analysis of this 10-minute deep dive. If you've made it this far, you're not just a viewer, you're an analyst. You're someone who sees the broader game being played. Subscribe right now to join our private community of over 500,000 thinkers who are demanding a higher standard from our public institutions. Don't just watch history happen, understand why it's happening. Let's zoom out. This Texas airport raid is a microcosm of a systemic crisis. We have outsourced the care of the most vulnerable to third-party nonprofits with almost no federal oversight. We are essentially running a multi-billion-dollar humanitarian effort on the honor system. This isn't just about one Somali director or 27 victims. It's about the non-profit industry. When compassion becomes a high-margin business, the incentive isn't to solve the problem, it's to keep the cargo moving. This raid should be a wake-up call that good intentions are not a substitute for forensic auditing. Until we change the structure of how these grants are monitored, the secret zones will just move from the airport terminals to the shipping docks. As the 27 individuals are processed into genuine protective custody, the director waits for a bail hearing that may never come. The airports are back to their normal, frantic pace, but for the people who watched that raid unfold, the normal has been forever altered. The irony of the sanctuary is that the greatest threat often comes from the person holding the keys to the gate. The investigation is ongoing, and as more names from that list of 27 are exposed, the more we see that the light of the law is finally reaching the places it was never supposed to shine. My question for the community today is this: in an era of the halo effect, how do we build a system that audits the heroes as strictly as the villains? Share your perspective in the comments. This is a conversation that needs to happen now. If you value accountability over polished narratives, show your support by subscribing and clicking the video on the screen for our investigation into the financial shadows of the border crisis. Your engagement is the only thing that keeps this channel independent. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.